The moment you explain yourself, you have already lost. It never feels like that in the beginning. It feels justified, necessary, almost noble. Someone questions you. Your intent, your competence, your character, and your instinct is immediate. You lean forward. You clarify. You correct. You begin assembling facts, context, timelines. You try to make them understand, but in that exact moment, something invisible shifts. You are no longer standing as an equal. You have stepped into a lower position, one that requires approval. Your words are no longer expressions of truth. They are offerings, placed carefully in front of a silent judge, hoping to be accepted. And the more you explain, the worse it becomes. Because people are not listening for truth. They are listening for hesitation, for emotional leakage, for any signal that you need them to agree with you in order to feel stable. Your voice tightens. Your pace changes. Your energy betrays you long before your logic can save you. This is the paradox. The harder you try to prove yourself, the more uncertain you appear. Power does not argue. Power does not rush to correct perception. Power allows misunderstanding to exist without panic. Because true authority does not depend on being seen correctly in every moment. It depends on not needing to be. When you explain yourself under pressure, you unconsciously accept the frame that has been imposed on you. You become the defendant in a trial that was never real to begin with. And once you accept that role, everything you say is filtered through it. But the one who never explains, never enters the courtroom. He remains outside of judgment, outside of reach, and that is why he cannot be controlled. The world does not judge you by the truth of your words. It judges you by the energy behind them. You can be completely right, factually, logically, even morally, and still lose the moment. Not because your argument is weak, but because your delivery reveals something far more important than truth. Need. The need to be understood. The need to be validated. The need to be seen as right. And need is always interpreted as weakness. Watch what happens when someone speaks from certainty. Their words are few. Their tone is calm. There is no rush, no urgency, no hidden plea beneath the surface. Whether they are right or wrong becomes almost irrelevant. People feel their stability, and they respond to it. Now contrast that with someone who is explaining, justifying, over-clarifying. The sentences get longer, the voice gets tighter. There is an invisible pressure in every word, as if they are trying to force agreement into existence. It doesn't inspire trust. It triggers doubt, because at a subconscious level, people are not evaluating your logic. They are evaluating your state. And a state of desperation tells them one thing: you do not fully believe in your own position. So they stop believing in it too. This is why debates are rarely won by facts. They are won by presence, by composure, by the ability to remain unaffected while the other person is trying to pull you into reaction. When you chase understanding, you signal that your reality depends on their acceptance. And the moment you hand someone that power, they will consciously or not test it. The ones who hold power never chase agreement. They don't need to. They let others come to them or walk away because they understand a brutal truth most people never see. It is not what you say that defines your position. It is how much you need it to be believed. He who controls the frame wins. Every interaction you enter has an invisible structure, a silent agreement about who is leading, who is reacting, and what the situation means. Most people never see it. They think they are exchanging words, ideas, opinions. They are not. They are negotiating reality. The frame is that reality. It defines who holds authority, who must justify, and whose perspective becomes the reference point. And the moment you step into someone else's frame, you begin to play by their rules. This is where most people lose without realizing it. Someone questions you, "Why did you do that?" It sounds harmless, almost casual, but hidden inside that question is a position of power. They are the one evaluating. You are the one explaining. And if you answer directly, you accept that position. You become the one who must make sense, the one who must defend, the one who must prove. From that moment on, the outcome is already tilted against you, because in their frame, you are not equal, you are beneath. The powerful never rush to answer within a frame they did not create. They pause, they observe, and when they speak, they either reshape the frame or reject it entirely. Instead of answering, they redirect. Instead of defending, they question. Instead of accepting the premise, they dismantle it. Why does that concern you? What makes you see it that way? Now the structure shifts. The spotlight turns. The pressure moves. The roles reverse. Suddenly, they are the ones explaining. This is not about clever lines. It is about control. Control of meaning. Control of direction. Control of who defines the interaction. Because once you control the frame, you control perception. And once you control perception, you no longer need to win the argument. You have already won the moment. You were trained to justify yourself long before you ever knew what power was. It started in childhood, a broken object on the floor, a raised voice from across the room, a question that wasn't really a question. Did you do this? In that moment, there was no strategy, no philosophy, no awareness of frames or power. There was only one instinct: explain or face consequences. So you learned, I didn't mean to. It wasn't my fault. He started it first. Every explanation became a shield. Every justification, a way to restore safety. And slowly, without realizing it, you internalized a rule that would follow you into adulthood. If you can just explain yourself well enough, you will be accepted. But the environment changed. The rule did not. Now there is no parent, no teacher, no clear authority figure deciding your fate. Yet your mind still reacts as if there is. You project that authority onto everyone: your boss, your partner, even strangers. Anyone who questions you becomes, in your perception, someone you must answer to. So you explain, not because the situation requires it, but because your conditioning demands it. And this is where the trap closes. Because in the adult world, constant justification does not signal innocence. It signals submission. It tells people that you are still operating from a position of needing approval, that your internal sense of self is not enough. You require external validation to stabilize it. And people feel that instantly. They may not articulate it, but they respond to it. They push a little harder. They question a little more. They test the boundary you never set. What once protected you now weakens you. To break this pattern, you must see it for what it is. Outdated programming. You are no longer the child trying to avoid punishment. You are the one who decides whether judgment even matters. They don't want the truth. They want to see how you react. This is the part most people never understand. When someone questions you, challenges you, or throws an accusation your way, it feels like a search for clarity. It feels like a misunderstanding that needs to be corrected. So you step in with logic, with facts, with explanations carefully arranged to restore order. But the interaction was never about order. It was about power. Watch closely. The accusation often comes with a tone, a timing, a subtle pressure behind it. It is not neutral. It is a probe, a test, a way of measuring your stability under tension. Will you flinch? Will you rush to defend? Will you try to fix how they see you? If you do, the test is complete, because your reaction gives them the answer they were looking for. You can be moved, and once someone knows they can move you, they know they can influence you. This is why explaining rarely works. Not because your explanation is flawed, but because it addresses the wrong problem. You are offering truth to someone who is evaluating control, and control is never won through justification. It is revealed through restraint. The one who remains still under pressure sends a very different signal. No urgency, no need to correct, no visible attachment to the outcome. It disrupts the pattern the other person was expecting. Now, the test fails because there is nothing to measure. no reaction to interpret, no weakness to map, no leverage to use. And this creates something far more powerful than being understood. It creates uncertainty. They begin to question their own position, their own assumption, their own confidence in pushing further. The dynamic shifts, quietly, but completely. Because in a world where most people react on instinct, the one who does not react becomes the one who cannot be controlled. Silence is the ultimate weapon, because it removes the game entirely. Most people think power is expressed through words, through clever arguments, sharp comebacks, perfectly timed responses. They believe the one who speaks best wins. But real power often sounds like nothing at all. When an accusation is thrown at you, there is an unspoken expectation, a script both sides are supposed to follow. They attack, you defend, they push, you clarify, back and forth, until one person appears more convincing. Silence breaks that script. You don't answer, you don't react, you don't explain, and suddenly the structure collapses. What fills the space is tension, a heavy, uncomfortable pause that most people cannot tolerate, because silence in conflict feels unnatural. It signals that something is off, that the other person is not playing by the rules. And that is precisely the point. In that silence, you are no longer participating in their frame. You are not validating their accusation as something worthy of response. You are not granting them the authority to question you. You are simply unmoved. This creates a psychological vacuum. The human mind is wired to resolve tension, to fill gaps, to restore equilibrium. So they begin to speak again. They soften their tone. They adjust their statement. Sometimes they even start defending themselves, trying to justify why they said what they said in the first place. The pressure they tried to place on you returns to them. But silence only works if it is real, not forced, not passive-aggressive, not filled with suppressed panic behind the eyes. It must come from a place of internal stillness, a quiet certainty that does not require expression. Because the moment your silence is backed by need, it loses its edge. True silence is not empty. It is controlled presence. And in a world addicted to noise, the one who can hold silence without breaking holds power without effort. Become unreadable, and you become untouchable. Most people reveal themselves without realizing it, not through what they say, but through how they react. A slight change in tone, a defensive posture, a rushed explanation. These are signals, small cracks that expose what matters to them, what threatens them, what can be used against them. And once those signals are seen, they cannot be unseen. If someone knows what triggers you, they know where to apply pressure. If they know what you fear being perceived as, they know exactly which label will destabilize you. Every reaction becomes a map, every defense a confession. This is why emotional transparency in moments of conflict is not strength, it is vulnerability without control. The powerful operate differently. They do not rush to display their inner state. They do not offer immediate reactions that can be studied, analyzed, and exploited. Instead, they create distance between stimulus and response, a gap, a delay, a space where nothing is revealed. In that space, they become difficult to read, and what cannot be read cannot be predicted. What cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. This is where true leverage begins. When you are unreadable, people lose their reference points. They don't know if you are offended or indifferent, if you are considering their words or dismissing them entirely. They are left guessing, and in that uncertainty, their confidence weakens. They start adjusting, testing different angles, searching for a reaction that never comes. And slowly, the dynamic shifts. Because the one who is being observed is no longer you, it is them. You are no longer participating in the emotional exchange. You are watching it, measuring it, allowing it to unfold without interference. You become the mirror, not the subject. And mirrors cannot be attacked. They only reflect. When you master this state, you stop being a target. You become a presence, and presence cannot be touched. Speak, but never defend. Silence is powerful, but there are moments when words are required. Not to justify yourself, not to prove your innocence, but to maintain control of the interaction. And when you do speak, you do not resist the attack. You redirect it. This is verbal Aikido. In Aikido, force is never met with force. You don't block. You don't clash. You take the energy coming toward you and guide it somewhere else. The attacker expects resistance. When they don't get it, they lose balance. The same principle applies here. When someone accuses you, the instinct is to push back, to deny, to correct. But that creates friction, and friction keeps you trapped inside their frame. Instead, you absorb the statement without accepting its intent. You agree, but on your terms. You're selfish. You might be right sometimes. Notice what happens. You didn't argue. You didn't defend. But you also didn't submit. You acknowledged the possibility without attaching yourself to the label. The attack loses its edge because there is nothing solid to hit, or you amplify it. You're obsessed with money. Completely. I count it for fun. Now the accusation becomes absurd. You've taken their weapon and stripped it of seriousness. You show, without saying it directly, that you are not threatened by the label, and sometimes you redirect entirely. Why does that bother you? What made you see it that way? Now they are explaining. Now they are justifying. The pressure shifts, quietly but completely. This is the essence of verbal Aikido. No resistance, no submission, only control of direction. Because the one who controls direction controls outcome. And when your words no longer come from a need to defend, but from a position of calm detachment, they stop being reactions. They become instruments. Defense reveals more than your words ever could. It exposes what you are trying to hide. When someone calls you something that has no connection to your identity, you don't react. You don't explain. You don't feel the need to correct them. It passes through you like noise, irrelevant, almost amusing. But when a statement touches something real, everything changes. Your body tightens. Your mind races. You feel the urge to respond immediately, to fix the perception, to protect how you are being seen. And in that reaction, you reveal something far more valuable than any confession. You show where you are uncertain, because certainty does not defend itself. If you know, without question, who you are, no external label can destabilize you. It doesn't matter if someone calls you incompetent, selfish, or dishonest. If it does not align with your internal reality, it carries no weight. There is nothing to correct. But if a part of you suspects it might be true even slightly, that is where the reaction comes from. Defense is not about the other person. It is about the conflict within you. And people can sense that conflict. They may not consciously analyze it, but they feel the tension, the urgency, the emotional charge behind your words. And that charge tells them exactly where your boundaries are weak, where your identity is fragile, where pressure can be applied. Every defense becomes a signal, a map of your insecurities, drawn in real time. This is why the most composed individuals appear almost unaffected, not because they are perfect, but because they have already confronted their flaws in private. They have seen them, accepted them, and integrated them into their sense of self. There is nothing left to protect. So when an accusation comes, it finds no resistance, and therefore no entry point. It simply passes through, because you cannot destabilize someone who is no longer divided within themselves. The untouchable man needs no explanation, not because he has nothing to say, but because he has nothing to prove. He moves through the world with a different center of gravity. His sense of self is not negotiated in conversations, not adjusted based on reactions, not dependent on how accurately others perceive him. He does not rush to correct misunderstandings because his identity is not fragile enough to require constant maintenance. Misinterpretation does not threaten him. It simply exists. This is what separates him from everyone else. Most people spend their lives managing perception. They edit their words, adjust their tone, explain their intentions, all in an attempt to be seen correctly. They believe clarity will bring respect. But the untouchable man understands something deeper. Respect is not given to the most understood. It is given to the most stable. And stability does not explain itself. When accused, he does not scramble to respond. When misunderstood, he does not chase clarity. When judged, he does not seek appeal. He allows others to hold whatever perception they choose because he knows their perception does not alter his reality. There is a quiet finality to him, a sense that nothing you say can move him unless he decides it should. And that is what makes him dangerous. Not aggression, not dominance, but immovability. You cannot manipulate someone who does not react. You cannot control someone who does not seek approval. You cannot shame someone who has already accepted himself. He has done the internal work most avoid. He has faced his contradictions, his flaws, his shadow, and integrated them. There is no hidden insecurity waiting to be exposed, no identity hanging by the thread of external validation. So when pressure comes, it finds no leverage, no cracks, no openings, just presence. And presence, when it is complete, requires no explanation. It simply is.